Alright, today we're going to look at a Brunswick Ultona reproducer, and this is the deluxe version of the reproducer that has two sides. There's the Pathé and lateral cut record side, and then there's the Edison record side. And I've had this reproducer for quite some time. I rebuilt it about 25 years ago when I was in high school when I first got it, but I didn't do both sides of it. I just did the lateral side here. You can see this gasket is obviously newer than the gasket on this side. So what I'm going to do at this point is I do want to rebuild the whole thing. I'm going to start by disassembling the Edison side, and it'll be disassembled first, and then I can disassemble the lateral and Pathé side. So the first thing I need to do is to push the pin out that the stylus bar pivots on the Edison side, and this pivot is just a piece of hard wire that's pressed into there, and I just need to get it started out. And I'm going to use an old phonograph needle here to push it out like that. And then I can use a pair of pliers, and of course I started this video not having a pair of pliers handy. These will do. These are going to look like gigantic pliers on this little part here. But I'm going to pull the pin out like that and set it aside, and of course it's magnetic and not wanting to come off. So there's the pivot pin. And then I can tip the stylus out of the way and unhook it from the cord. So there's the stylus bar unhooked and out of the way. Now I can remove this bezel that's held on with some screws here. That screw is just a little bit on the buggered side. Let's start with one of these others. Of course, I still do everything like I did back then when my hands were smaller, and I do everything pretty much bare-handed without the benefit of pliers or tweezers or anything. Just never developed a feel for using tools like that. Oops. Oh man. I'm going to go back to this screw here. Let me use a screwdriver for a different tip on it. Let's see if I can get this one to come loose. Cannot find the slot on this one at all, guys. Okay, I did get the budge there. Okay. Next is going to be to get the bezel gently worked free of the rest of the body. And no doubt this old gasket is pretty stiff and is probably to some extent glued it on. But we'll see if we can see what I've done here is I've taken a bigger screwdriver and I've slipped it over here and worked it loose on that side. Come around to this side and do the same thing. I'm prying in between the bezel and the gasket, and it just took a very little gentle prying, didn't take much. And now the bezel is off, and there's the original gasket from the 1920s, still cemented on there. And there's the diaphragm. And it will take something similar to get the diaphragm off, but we don't really want to pry against the diaphragm because we don't want to break the diaphragm. But if we go around very gently, you see the diaphragm is well centered. Actually, it's not centered very well at all. Look at it. Look at how badly centered it is. There it's touching. That will create buzzing in the sound where it's touching the body of the reproducer. So what I can do is go in here with the screwdriver and sort of gently chip away at, and then maybe even stick my finger up inside, and nope, not small enough. I'm doing this very gently because I do not want to damage this mica diaphragm. There we go. Just like that. There's the diaphragm on the Edison side out. It looks pretty nice. We'll have to try to clean this up a little bit. And here's the old gasket that'll have to come out. This inside gasket is actually still pliable a little bit, and you can see it's just like the modern gasket material that I'm using, like what I've shown you on some of the other videos. It's tubing that is squashed down. It's the tubing I've bought from Ron Sitko. I hope there's enough here to do both sides. This is the larger diameter tubing. And you can see it's a pretty close match to what was originally there. So this is what we'll be using. It's nice and soft and very pliable and looks the right color too. It just has a slight off-white to it. And you can see the original gaskets were made in this same manner. And I'm honestly kind of surprised at how pliable this gasket is. I'm really very shocked. It's not as supple as the new gasket material is, but it hasn't crumbled into 1,000 pieces either. Look at that. Obviously lost its resiliency though, but wow. To my knowledge, this side's never been rebuilt. The gentleman I bought this from is a friend of mine, still around after 24, 25 odd years, and he's never rebuilt it. So now we can do this side, and let me start a new video to take this side apart.